around the testimony of two of his ex-girlfriends, the singer Cassie Ventura and a woman who testified using the pseudonym Jane. Both women say that for years, Combs pressured them to participate in drug-fueled sexual encounters with male escorts that could last multiple days. Ventura and Jane testified that he used financial control, emotional manipulation, and physical force to get them to comply with what he asked, even when he knew they didn't want to. Both women said that early in their relationship, they agreed to these encounters because they loved Combs and wanted to make him happy. But eventually, they told him they did not want to keep having sex with other men. During closing arguments, prosecutor Christy Slavic detailed multiple specific incidents that she said proved Combs trafficked these women. But in order to convict him of trafficking, she explained, the jury only needs to believe Combs forced or coerced each woman into just one of these encounters. The other major charge is for racketeering conspiracy. That's best known as a mob charge, and Slavic argued that Combs did, in fact, run a criminal enterprise, a close circle of employees doing his bidding. Through text messages and phone records, Slavic tried to prove that some of Combs' employees, including assistants and security guards, were deeply involved in crimes committed on his behalf. They include things like bribery, witness tampering, and distributing drugs. Slavic explained to the jury that if they found Combs and his employees committed at least two of these criminal acts, that amounts to racketeering. She told the jury that Combs, quote, used violence, power, and fear to get what he wanted. She told them now it's time to hold him accountable. Today, Combs' defense will make their case before the jury begins deliberations. Isabella Gomez Sarmiento, NPR News.
This is NPR News. This is KJZZ's Morning Edition. I'm Phil Latzman. Stay in touch with KJZZ at kjzz.org and on your phone with the KJZZ mobile app. You can also send us an email and tell us where you're listening to KJZZ.
KJZZ is offering original podcasts like the show.
I woke up to a sign on the bathroom saying, there is a live pigeon in the bathtub.
A couple of the boys took the express car and they blew the safe open and pesos all over the playa. We're still finding the pesos.
It's on the show and the show podcast. Get it at Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
That summer brings by clearing out your old vehicle and donating it to KJZZ. We'll tow it away for free and handle all the paperwork. Details are at cars.kjzz.org.
Take our new quiz. The A to Z quiz tests your knowledge of all things Arizona. You can give it a try at play.kjzz.org.
It's 4:44.
Before you toss that old tomato, consider using it to grow a new one. A gardener has advice on growing your own groceries next time on Here and Now.
Big news stories don't always break on your schedule, but with the NPR app, news, culture, and podcasts are ready when you want them, in your pocket. Download the NPR app today.
Good morning, I'm Steve Inskeep. Lalo Schifrin has died at 93, the composer who accepted this musical mission. He scored hundreds of shows and films like Cool Hand Luke and Bullet. And all his life, one thing led to another. He grew up in Argentina, then came to America while working with the trumpeter Dizzy Gillespie. He wrote the Mission Impossible theme that we're hearing now. Bruce Lee practiced martial arts to this very song and then asked Schifrin to score his final film. It's Morning Edition.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from BritBox, committed to shaking up people's watch list with British TV, including new original series like Ludwig, starring Peep Show's David Mitchell. Streaming now at BritBox.com/NPR. From your part-time controller, specializing in nonprofit accounting and committed to supporting nonprofits with financial management services such as budgeting and forecasting. yptc.com/NPR. And from the listeners who support this NPR station.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Martinez. An HIV/AIDS treatment program created by President George W. Bush is under threat as Republicans in Congress look to cut federal spending. Our colleague Darian Woods from the Indicator podcast examines the legacy of PEPFAR and what it would mean for the program to end. Not everyone remembers this acutely, but in the 1990s, AIDS was one of the leading causes of death, including in the US. And then came game-changing drugs to treat HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. These drugs were what's called antiretroviral therapy. John Cohen is a senior correspondent for Science magazine and has been covering public health for over 30 years.
They could basically allow people who had HIV to live normal lifespans.
Antiretroviral therapy saved millions of lives in wealthy countries.
Well, that wasn't available to most people living with HIV in the world because the drugs were so incredibly expensive. About $15,000 a year per person.
That's what impelled George W. Bush to start PEPFAR. And what's made PEPFAR successful is that the program is heavily monitored for its outcomes. Program managers can look at a country and see where it's succeeding, where it's failing, and what could be changed. And even some of the countries hardest hit by AIDS have reached these targets.
To date, the program has spent over $120 billion and has saved an estimated 26 million lives. It's a phenomenally successful program.
That success is now under grave threat. The hope had been that American assistance could start phasing down around 2030. But some Republican lawmakers didn't like that some money was targeting higher risk groups like sex workers and LGBT people. So that glide path has now turned more into a crash landing. Earlier this year, many HIV/AIDS organizations in places like Africa received emails terminating their contracts with the USAID. The emails were signed off, "God bless America." White House Budget Director Russ Vought said the US is in $37 trillion in debt, and at some point the continent of Africa needs to absorb more of the burden of providing this healthcare. So could African countries find HIV/AIDS treatment and prevention themselves?
Sure, and they want to. And they're moving toward that. But to think that this is going to solve our debt problem, I mean, come on, do the math. It's more than simply soft diplomacy. It's creating a stable world where you don't have military conflicts, you don't have countries falling apart because of health.
We reached out to the Department of State asking if its leadership was concerned. The spokesperson said PEPFAR continues to support life-saving HIV testing, care, and treatment approved by the Secretary of State. But they also said that other PEPFAR-funded services are currently being reviewed for efficiency and consistency with U.S. foreign policy. John says, like any large system, there were always wrinkles, like leadership in Washington pushing too hard for those metrics sometimes, or debates over abstinence promotion. But overall, he says this was an extremely well-run program. In its hobbled state now, though, researchers from the HIV Modeling Consortium estimated 70,000 people have already died. Darian Woods, NPR News.
Support for Planet Money comes from Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com.
This is NPR News. You're listening to Morning Edition, KJZZ 91.5. It's the perfect mix.
The place to be when things go sideways. Federal programs to help Arizona households with energy costs are in limbo.
The number is rising around the country, so people want to know early if they have Alzheimer's disease and they want access to testing.
KJZZ is where you want to be and need to be for all the information on 91.5 FM and on your phone.
Did you know you can donate an RV, boat, or motorcycle to KJZZ and become a member? Michael in Scottsdale donated his 2005 Triumph Bonneville motorcycle, and you can too. Details at cars.kjzz.org.
Stay in touch with KJZZ at kjzz.org. You can also send us an email and tell us where you're listening to KJZZ.
It's important, it's useful, and it's needed. The news on KJZZ is here when you need it, but there's so much more.
We know that gaming is huge in students' lives, and by bringing in an esports arena, we are bringing them to a place that they want to be in.
I like the romantic West because the music is very dramatic.
News and information for your curious mind. It's on 91.5 and the KJZZ mobile app.
KJZZ is a service of Rio Salado College. We're also mobile on the KJZZ app. It's 4:52.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm E. Martinez.
I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Michelle Martin. All athletes face pressure, but what if that pressure isn't for money, fame, or glory, but just to survive? In the new film Tatami, Iranian government agents ordered judo athlete Leyla Hosseini to fake an injury at the World Championships to avoid facing off against an Israeli athlete. They threatened to harm her family if she doesn't comply. So Leyla, like the real athletes who inspired the film, faces an impossible choice: acquiesce to the regime and throw the match, or compete and show the world and herself what she's capable of.
Is Leyla a part of this?
It's a team decision.
Well, somebody needs to notify her because she just stepped out into the tatami.
Tatami is the first feature film co-directed by an Israeli and an Iranian. I spoke with Oscar winner Guy Natif and Zara Amir, who won a Best Actress Award at Cannes. Natif told us how he first came across Amir.
Because I'm not Iranian, I'm Persian, I wanted to open myself to Iranian talent. And then I saw Holy Spider and my jaw dropped when I saw Zar's performance. So Zar auditioned to play Mariam, and I kind of offered her to collaborate, to direct together, to cast the movie, to produce it with me. And she took her time to think about it, and that started a whole beautiful journey for both of us.
Zara, what made you want to participate in this film? And if you don't mind my asking, why did you hesitate?
Because I was a bit afraid, but then at some point I just realized that I'm doing as Mariam does in the movie, and I'm hesitating.
Well, what you said is very profound there. As well as co-directing, you play Mariam, who is Leyla's coach. And so I wanted to ask how you arrived at that balance, I guess, between the physicality and the interiority. Guy, do you want to start?
I think that once we worked together on the script and how to make it very personal and very intimate, together with the physical challenge of just going in there, you know, Ariane Mandy, and she's a boxer in real life. And she had 3 weeks of judo training in Los Angeles, and she competed versus real judoka, real judo fighters. So the entire shoot was very physical.
Adrienne Mandy plays Leyla. She did all of her own scenes.
Yeah, because she's amazing.
Right, and I was like, my goodness. I understand that you also trained. Why is that? You just wanted to be sure you understood it, or tell me more about that?
Yeah, while I was in LA for my Holy Spider movie, I could go and at least watch how these judoka they work, how is the attitude between, coach and judokas.
Just seeing these amazing women doing their thing physically and emotionally was profound to me.
So let me ask you this. Why are Iranian officials so opposed to Leyla fighting an Israeli?
It's Iranian regime political agenda. We need this imaginary enemy. This is the way totalitarian regimes, they survive, especially in Middle East. But it's so absurd. So more and more people, they don't obey.
I also think that in judo, it's a sport that you have to honor your opponent because you have to bow, right? There's a big respect. And the Islamic regime do not want the Iranian judoka, to lose to an Israeli, because it's kind of like you have to honor her or him by bowing, and they see that as an insult in a way.
In the film, representatives of the World Judo Association approach her to give her an opportunity to defect. But Layla hesitates at first. Why?
I think it's a very normal and natural reaction, because you put your family, you put your old friends, and your life, your career in danger. It's the biggest decision of your life, as we say in the movie. This is the difference between Mariam and Layla. Mariam was in the same situation.